You want to send me the Twitters?
I am just about to post it. Why don't you fucking calm down?
Randy's fucking yelling at people, man.
Yeah, well, I mean, they don't know what the fuck they're
Dear
watching or
God.
talking about 90% of the time anyway, so...
Dear God. Like,
Okay.
when's Han gonna retire, man? Like,
Oh
oh
no,
my God.
Han's fine. The bigger thing.
Oh no, I'm not saying he should. I'm just like,
here's
if this is one of his last seasons.
Here's what pisses me off more than anything, more than how bad the Sharks are, is the fact that, of course, right now mainstream media decides to pay attention and just poke. Like, fucking, you ignore the team for fucking ever, and then you're just ready there to pile on, and that's what they do, and that's fucking their business. But fuck them, man. Like, fucking hate that shit.
All right, here's the link.
Oh, do you put it in the thingamabob?
I put it in the place I know you can reach, since you bitch and moan about Twitter every week now.
I've always bitched and moaned about Twitter. I just now can't access it, which is
the
annoying.
site formerly known as.
No, it will always be Twitter. It's not X. Fuck Elon Musk. It is Twitter. At least for as long as it continues to exist.
Yeah.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy.
Hold on, let me just point it in there. Let me fuck off of this thing. See, wouldn't want to be a Facebook. Click on the link. It's my daily Facebook check-in right there. Someone called me on Facebook the other day. I'm like, don't call me on Facebook. I'm not on Facebook. What are you doing? All right. My volume okay? I did some recording this week, so I'm not sure if I'd moved it.
Yeah, you're fine.
All right. Nice to have you back, by the way, Colin.
Nice to be back.
Colin's really just here to listen to your meltdown. So
fucking Colin's the reason. Colin not being on this podcast for so long is the reason why we fucking suck, Colin.
Oh, I wish.
All right. Are you ready?
Do you have heart meds set aside for this?
Oh man, I got a sore tooth at a freaking filling repaired after, however long it's supposed to last, and it is not feeling great. So that doesn't help. All right, here we go. Hello and welcome to Circling the Cup, San Jose Sharks podcast, episode number 205. And I know what you're thinking. And no, 205 is not the current losing streak. And Ben, before you interrupt, let me also point out that 205 is not the Sharks' goals against average. Although, at this rate, it will be very soon. Listen, folks, I'm going to give you a full disclaimer here. And I'm saying this, as one of the two. I wouldn't call myself an optimist. I would say I'm a realist, but I like to hope for the best. But coming to you as one of those people, I'm going to say, this is going to be a rough podcast, folks.
Buckle in, folks.
Kids, if you're listening and you're not of age, there will be a lot of swearing, I'm sure, on this podcast because let's be real, guys, this sucks. In fact, this is actually what I would consider, having been a fan of these Sharks since the very, 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 very beginning, even ahead of that, hoping to get the Sharks in San Jose. This is about as bad as I've ever seen. Now, I'm Alex. Here with me, as always, is the Honorable Ben. How are you doing, Ben?
I'm not ready for the role reversal that's going to happen today, where you are just absolutely enraged, and I'm going to be, to a small extent, the voice of reason.
Yes, and I am enraged, and of course, you can hear I think, fumbling around in the microphone from Sweden, our only, I think, back, Colin.
Our Swedish hockey correspondent, Colin Clark.
Yeah, I /spy /scout / I think you're only here because Magnus Krona got his start, and he's Swedish, I believe. Is Colin? How you doing, Colin? Welcome back.
No, I came for the show.
Yeah,
and the sound is me tinkling my drink and looking up the 91 and 92 records because it really feels like that, but worse.
This isn't about the record, though. So here's the thing, folks. The Sharks fucking suck. There's no other way to put it. And it's it's not just the quality of players. It is not just the play on the ice. Organizationally, this team right now is incapable of making a single meaningful decision. And I think that's where, I'm obviously going to rant here. That's where my frustration lies. The Sharks are coming off, if you're listening to this podcast, we are coming off of losing our second game in a row, this time to the Penguins, having given up 10 goals. Now, they gave up 10 goals the night before. The only thing that you could maybe say about this game is the Sharks maybe kind of sort of not really improved because they got their first 2-goal game of I think the season. So they scored one more.
Game.
But look, here's the thing. The Sharks were never going to be good this year. They were not. It was not in the cards. There was a long shot, and by long I mean you're shooting that shot from across the globe, hitting a target the size of like a pinhole. That they may come together. This new crop of guys may come together a little bit and be a little bit better than people were thinking. Not good, but the way the Sharks are playing right now is not only disgusting, but also they can't seem to do anything about it. And there's really no shred of evidence other than hearsay coming from the locker room that the organization is even trying to do anything about it. And that's what disturbs me the most here. Quinn at this point for me needs to be fired. And I know there are a lot of fans out there who go, well, that's not going to fix anything. Nothing to do with fixing anything. Just let me just lay this out there. Regardless of whether or not Quinn's a great guy, regardless of whether or not he can coach in other situations or can't coach, I don't care. You don't get to lose the entire month of October and then lose a game 10-1 and then have the response be a 10-2 loss. You don't. And at some point in time, the Sharks need to make it really fucking clear to the players there are consequences. And to not do that, to me, absolutely sends the worst message to the fan base and the rest of the organization that you could possibly communicate. Because whether you want to look at it as a scapegoating or not, and I would say based on the on-ice play, it's more than warranted, regardless of how bad the roster is. The play warrants it. But you need to do something here. It cannot be, well, that sucks. Let's hope for better next game, because that's what they just did. And it's what they've been doing all October. And it has only gotten worse. Worse to the point where within the first minute or whenever that declare penalty hit last night, I knew exactly where this game was going. It was crystal clear. They were immediately making the same mistakes they were making the game before. They were doing it against a team that, while not playing particularly well at the start of this season, clearly has the caliber of player who can play well. That's a team that just kind of needs to pull it together. But the Sharks players here and everyone in the organization from the top down, there needs to be the message of there are consequences. You guys either need to figure it out, or you need to get angry, or you need to do something. But the acceptable response for me as a fan right now is not nothing. Is not let's hope that they figure it out for next game, because they should have fucking done it last game. You don't get to come off a 10-1 loss and hop into a 10-2 loss. And the players are like the post-game interviews. I watched post-game interviews, guys. I don't know if you stuck around. I did, just because I really wanted to see. I wasn't expecting a lot from those. I expected to hear from a bunch of shell-shocked players with no answers, and that's exactly what I got. Other than Quinn, who very much looked like he knew he ought to be shown the door after where the team is, and seemed like at a complete. I don't want to say seemed like he was at a loss, but clearly he knows he's got no effect on these players, and that's a massive issue. But you could just tell with this there's a rot right now in this organization. And, I'm sorry, when you look at all the way up to Joe Will, and whomever making the call on a rebuild with a completely unproven general manager, right? And then that general manager stuffing the development pipeline with friends without the experience to necessarily take on those roles. Right now, we are seeing a team where the kids aren't improving. And the suggestion is to shield the kids in the AHL, and the AHL team is garbage.
Yeah.
So here's the thing I want to point out. Something needs to happen here. My expectation is not suddenly the Sharks will get good or even get better. I need to see that the organization takes this stuff seriously, because as a fan, this is absolutely painful to watch. They have taken a team that, I got to be real, guys. You know this. I lived on the East Coast for a while, right? In Boston when we got Jumbo over here. I have had my fair share of nights having to defend the Sharks. They're not really chokers. They just didn't get over the hump here, whatever. But this right here, can't do.
Okay,
now,
wait.
Now, are they bad? Are they as bad as the media wants to make it out to be? Yes, technically, but they're painting it like this is the worst franchise ever. Not the worst franchise. This is the worst, his team season for the franchise. I will still point. And I have friends in Buffalo who I know and love. I will still point to Buffalo or Arizona or franchises like that took even longer to try to figure this stuff out. But one thing, Colin, Greer here. This, like, I've read some stuff where people are like, well, if they fire the coach now, they're admitting they made a mistake. Good, fucking admit you made a mistake. Because
do something.
Yeah, because if you do, again, doing nothing is not acceptable. It's not going to help this team with the rebuild. It is not going to put the younger players in the position to get better. Like, you absolutely cannot continue to ride out after the month that we've had and the last two losses in particular and be fine. Like, you straight up cannot. That would be the most it boggles my mind when people are pointing. It boggles my mind when people are pointing to this and go, well, nothing. Well, that won't make a difference.
Yeah. So
something has to be done.
Okay.
A message has to be sent.
I have a short thing I want to say, and then I want Colin to get to go, which is that the way you're approaching this is absolutely the wrong way to run an organization. Of, we have to do something, so let's do this. But
I don't think firing. Right? But firing Quinn is justifiable with the way.
So yes. So doing this as an emotional decision is wrong. But the motivation of, we've reached the end of our rope on this, is wrong. But not in this particular instance. There is actually a situation where a team could be going through this, and you could analytically say, no, you don't move on at this point, right? But
this is not that, and that's why.
But this is not. I just want to say, like, for folks out there, we shouldn't have hired. Look, I've been on record since the beginning. We shouldn't have hired Quinn in the first place. He's not a guy who moves the needle, etc. So I'm going to agree with you that he needs to go. I've got some more nuanced thoughts beyond that for later. But I just want to say right now, I agree with you, but not for the emotional reasons that are being kind of put forward here. This is embarrassing. This is humiliating for the team, for us as fans, for everybody, what we've gone through here. But it's the right answer, not because of that.
Yeah,
it's the right answer because of what has led to those.
Yeah. Don't confuse my emotional, frustrated state, which I am emotional about this. That is not what's driving my calls for that. It is literally you. And I agree. And I do think it's important to point that out, because when you get to the people who at this point are still, there's sort of two camps that I'm seeing right now, right, in the fan base and in the media as well. One is something needs to be done, and there are plenty of things that weren't being done too. Mm-hmm. And then there's the other side. And this is a side that I'm really struggling with, which are the people that are shrugging and going, it won't make a difference. For me, again, I look at that and depends on how you define difference. I'm not defining difference as the Sharks suddenly becoming a good, organization this season overnight. Absolutely not.
That's not the goal.
That exactly.
Let's give Colin his
sit and not do anything is not okay to me.
Right.
Go ahead, Colin.
Well, I don't want so much a chance to go on about how ludicrously bad everything is. I'm more what is the actual subject we're going for? Like how the organization respond to these last two
It's not just the last,
amazing games,
but it's not just,
or
the last two games. And I think that's the thing, is that like these last two games are obviously a tipping point for a lot of fans like me, for sure. And yeah, all of a sudden we have the attention of mainstream media who just wants to pile on, which isn't great. But if you look at the Sharks play this season, it's sucked through and through in pretty much every department. I'll give the goaltenders a hair of a pass, because obviously there have been points where Blackwood is, stood on his head. And, a lot of what was going on yesterday, even with Corona, dude was abandoned. Like, I'm not saying he came out and had the most stellar start either, but dude was abandoned. Kakinen.
We have zero defense.
We have
zero defense. We have zero physical presence.
There's no leadership.
It's like it is laughable to watch this team vanish on the defensive side. But like, what are we talking about? Are we talking about this play that we're watching, or are we talking about how this organization is supposed to respond to it? Because the other downside here is Greer's lost on every single bet. I mean, Hoffman was
I disagree with that.
No, yeah, I don't agree. There's lost on every bet. But one thing I was going to say when I started on the rant with Greer a little while ago, that I do want to point out too is, we've had a lot of conversations about Greer in terms of like, hey, he's managed to get out of a couple of contracts. It's good the way he's done it. Medium, not great, just kind of depends. The thing is the Sharks were in contract hell. True. There are a lot of people that looked at that and said, you'll never get out of it. Untrue. Almost any general manager worth their salt can get out of it. Now, can they get out of it in a way that's productive? That was really always more the question. So the pat on the back of like, well, yeah, but he this and that and DW, that doesn't change the fact that right now this is the worst team on ice we've ever had.
Yeah,
it doesn't change that. It doesn't change that fact.
But my point, when I'm saying he's lost on every bet, I mean all his reclamation projects, all these players who, if they just had a glimmer of life this season, could have possibly been thrown away for, like, I don't know, a fourth, or depending on desperation, a third round. But like, what does Greer do? Like, there's nobody who it's like, ooh, that guy is shiny.
No, but here's the order of operations. The order of operations is you fire Quinn, as an example. If you need to pull up one of the other assistants as a interim coach, fine. But the players need to understand that there are consequences, because right now the players are sort of defending Quinn in the locker room. And I'm not trying to pile on Quinn. You need to tell them, well, if you like that too fucking bad, you got to play like it. The next thing that you do is you have that coach. You should sit down with whoever you're bringing in the interim or hire, whatever. And the first thing you do is you say, I need to understand who the new leadership in this room is going to be, because it's clearly not anyone that's in there right now. Because that's the other problem. When you watch the Sharks play, and there's been a lot of chat about this in the Discord from people who I believe have played hockey, me as well. But like, Kakinen gets bumped into, and there's no Sharks around there. I'm not asking for a fight. I'm asking, like, even checking in, and that's not the first time that's happened. So there's a leadership issue. The coach right now doesn't seem to have enough effect. Even if you loved Quinn for whatever reason at this point, he clearly does not have enough of an effect on this team where the players are responding the way they need to be responding. And then within that locker room, you got to look at like, who's speaking up and why isn't that working? And who needs to be the new voices? And how do we shift that? Because there's no, we were talking about this a little bit last night, Ben, and I think you pointed it out in one of our private chats, but I agree. There's no culture right now here. And these are the things that I think you're not going to be able to go out and just suddenly flip someone and get a magical piece in. You're not going to be able to do that, especially with how crappy some of these players are playing. You're going to be selling a bargain basement. If you want to flip a Zadina, who you can sort of see, can start to put it together, it's not a great time to be making that move. But you got to fix the leadership element of this franchise and organization.
Well, so any sort of player flip that we're going for isn't meant to bring in a key piece. It's meant to bring in a possibility, use, a magic bean draft pick, or, someone who can be a role player over the next couple of years. Like, to have no culture, no on ice identity, no on ice presence. Nobody there to check on the goalie because everyone skated back to the bench like, oh, thank God I got to get off the ice. It's cold out there.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, and
like,
here's actually, Colin, this is something that I want to actually connect with what you said, Ben, earlier. The personnel side, the player personnel side, is the side where emotionally I think you do need to be careful. Not because I think any of these players are necessarily, or very few of them are worth holding on to, but to mix up the players sake, that can be a real slippery slope and a dangerous path. So I think step one really is addressing that leadership. Step two, if there's an opportunity that makes sense, okay. Otherwise, I would say, you want to talk about a merit system, get Hoffman off the fucking ice. Get Ruda off the fucking ice. There are guys at the AHL level, whether they are ready for the NHL or not, that can likely put together a more coherent game, that will be hungrier to do so. And when you look at that leadership situation in general, maybe some of the pieces that can combine with the other young pieces and go, look, our team now.
Okay. I'm going to tell you both to shut up for a second so that I can kind of go through the non-emotional version of what has to happen here.
Sure.
Okay.
Non-emotional. All right, here we go.
So, Greer absolutely has to fire Quinn. Absolutely 100%. We've seen nothing from him over the last 2 years, and nothing from him prior to that suggests he's a guy to take a young team and get it to gel. It doesn't matter what he's done at the amateur level. It's the NHL. It's different. He sucks. He's bad. He's net negative. Gone. Not just because something has to happen, but because he's the wrong coach and he's doing a shit job. There is nothing we've seen this year or in the prior year that indicates he knows what he's doing. Period. And obviously the team itself, whatever they're saying publicly, they don't believe what he's selling. So gone. Now, problem one, do we trust Greer to identify the correct replacement coach who is a net positive and can take this team and get them to move forward? I don't know.
No.
But the thing about Greer is he has progressed as a GM from day one to today. And what I mean by that is, as we look at the decisions he made at the beginning of his tenure versus the decisions he's made this year, there are far more positives that we've talked about as to what he has clearly learned, right? He's a first-time GM, and he's not going anywhere. Nobody's going to fire Mike Greer in year two of what is a clear rebuild. So, but the real question is, should he be fired, right? And I would argue right now that it's not great. His tenure has not been great. He's led us to this point, but he has an opportunity to show us that he is learning and growing.
Hey, we missed out on Bedard by some overtime losses. Arguably.
But you
maybe
can't.
This is just a dramatic overcorrection. Maybe he's learned so much. He's like, this, I really got to drive it down.
I don't believe that, unfortunately.
I don't either.
I don't think he assembled this team intending to be the worst NHL team on ice.
Well, and they have, by the way, through 11 games, and you posted this, Ben, through 11 games, San Jose Sharks own the worst goal differential in NHL history.
Yes. Yeah. So to continue my not rant here. So, interestingly, if you look at the players that are actually giving something on the ice, they are either the players that were already here or the players that he brought in this year. So Emberson has been the best defenseman on the ice since he showed up. He had, it's only 6 games of the 11, but he's showing something, both in terms of, shot percent, which way the ice is tilting when he's on it, but also expected goals. The problem is that our coach has been not playing the other guys who you can say the same about. So Thrun, who in his 2 games was also in that same boat, not being played. Knizhov, who's actually, showed far better than Ruda or Benning or what have you not getting like it's play decisions, right, that are the problem, not necessarily the players. I mean, of course, part of that is Luke Cunnan, who continues to get ice time for no definable reason. That I've said for a long time has something to do with the way Quinn identifies who should be playing, right? So anyway, Quinn is the problem we can address right now. Whatever Greer does after that, again, who he brings in as the coach is going to tell us whether he should be around in the long term or not, in my opinion, right?
Yeah.
So from there, you're correct that there's also a problem in the locker room, and it is a leadership problem, and we don't have to wait for Couture to get back to identify that, because
make it worse.
Couture's a garbage leader, and he should never have gotten the C anyway. So what I would argue is you waive Ferraro as a message to everybody else, and go from there.
But that would be also firing Quinn. Yeah, you do both.
Yeah.
Fire Quinn. Step one was firing Quinn.
I don't think Quinn should. I don't think Quinn. To be clear, I don't think you fire him later. I don't think Quinn should get another game.
I don't either. He should be gone right now.
Yes.
Oh, like fired on the tarmac style.
No, they came home. They came home.
You take him to an airport. You take him out to an airport. Like, hey, why are we out here? You're fired.
You say, oh, dude, they rescheduled one of our games and we got to catch a flight. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, there have just been too many opportunities for this team to respond, and this is too long this season to have not responded.
And then, when you were bringing in the next coach, you very patiently explain to that coach that they need to create a culture that makes these guys want to be here, because it's very clear they don't want to be here or on the ice right now. I think, Colin, you said it in the best way. The reason they didn't notice that Mac Black was down on the ice is they were slowly skating off the ice, thankful that their shift was over, right? Nobody's having any fun. Nobody wants to be here. And that's a culture issue at its core, right? This team is going to be bad.
Yeah, keep in mind, though, again, and I'm not disagreeing with you, but I also just want to pile on where I can pile on, because I am emotional right now. These are the guys that that Greer wanted because he thought they'd bring extra compete.
Right.
And that's one of the many things that concerns me about his judgment, obviously, is we questioned some of that at the time. There were a couple people that we were excited to see declare. We felt that we wanted to declare a couple of years ago, but whatever. The fact of the matter is, this team that is on the ice now, and I'm sure some of it's a little bit bullshit from Mike Greer, he's just saying it, but this, much like last year, these are the players that he sought out and wanted to bring in and brought in.
Well, not entirely, right? Like, one of the worst players on the ice is Ferraro, and that guy is a holdover. Look, here.
You mean to tell me you don't think he could have moved Ferraro if he wanted?
No, who would want Ferraro?
I bet you could trade.
I mean, if you wanted a 6th rounder in return, sure. No, I don't think Ferraro has any value.
Let me ask you a question, Ben.
Mm-hmm.
If I came to you right now and said, "Hey, Ferraro for a 6th rounder," would you take it?
I mean, yes.
Yes.
That's what I just said.
Right.
Oh, now, yeah.
But you were using that as it's probably all, great.
But nobody wants to even give a 6th rounder for him, is what I'm saying. Like, nobody values Ferraro like the Sharks do. For what trust me, like, this guy is, whether you're talking about eye test or underlying stats, he's garbage.
Like, our defense is so bad. I want the numbers. Was it like 3, 7, 4, and 8 just banned from defenders for Sharks from here on?
So kind of step back to that answer, like, or to the question, though. I mean, yes, is Greer responsible for Cunnan coming in? Absolutely. Is he responsible for Cunnan being put on Eklund's line? No. That's Quinn. Should we give Greer credit for Giovanni Smith? Actually, Giovanni Smith has one of the best fucking goals for percentages and Corsi for percentages on the team, which is mind-boggling, right? But I think that has a lot to do with minutes.
Yeah, but look at those. Look at those numbers in general.
Minutes and score effects.
Well, no, it's not score effects. I mean, when you talk about expected goals for percentage, that isn't about getting goals in the net. That's about where were shots coming from and how long do you spend in the opposing zone as opposed to your own, and so on and so forth.
I'm saying he's playing a lot of minutes when the other teams are like, yeah, okay, it's over. We're good.
I disagree. But anyway, that aside, like, the players who are performing worse here, Ruda, yes. Did he trade for Ruda? Yeah, but he traded for Ruda in a salary dump. We knew we
Yeah.
were getting spare parts in that we were hoping would showcase themselves for a trade for a third or fourth rounder down the road. That was the clear plan in that move. So I'm not going to give Greer a red mark for the fact that they're not playing particularly well. They didn't play particularly well last year, and this is what he could get. And he got Carlson off the roster and freed up the money. And again, what matters is what he does with that, right? And I think honestly, like, we can't say these guys are toast yet because again, they're not being put in position to succeed in any way, shape, or form. Whether we're talking about Granlund or God damn it, your favorite punching bag, Hoffman this season. Yeah,
Boy, that guy cannot pass to save his life.
no, he can't. But he's not. He shouldn't be asked to pass. I mean, that guy should be just collecting passes and trying to put them in the net. So again,
True.
I think there's systemic issues. They're not. None of these players are being put in position to succeed. And again, that goes back to today's solution is fire the coach. Tomorrow's solution is find the right coach to maximize both the losing, but also the let's see visible progress.
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
Get Bordalo back up, get Thrun back up, give Makamadulin a shot. Put them with the guys who have shown that they want to play. I mean, there were times earlier this year where Benning looked pretty good, but he has been by far the worst player in the last few games. I mean, that he's played. So he shouldn't. Just waive him.
Yep.
Wave for Haro, wave Benning, hold people accountable. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's do this.
That's and again, that's why I totally agree with you, Ben. I mean, that's
I'm done now.
It's got to be a coaching change.
Yeah,
and that's not a gut reaction. There needs to be one. Then there needs to be a culture change and a leadership change within that room. If you cannot do those three things, if Greer cannot figure those three things out, or at least set them on enough of a path, so that, because look, it's going to be real. You don't magically fire Quinn and the Sharks are perky, right? So,
I mean, you might get a bounce. Like it happens sometimes. The new guy comes in.
Fair.
People are suddenly having a little bit, are hopeful. They're having
fair.
A little bit more
I'm just saying expectation from a fan.
No, it's a bad team.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
right. Team. And this is a deep hole that they've dug. They've dug a deeper hole than I've seen a lot of teams who have fired their coach early in the season. So I would expect there to be time, but I think that the key thing that you brought up, Colin or Ben, that we haven't seen at all really is progress. And I'm not counting going 10-1 and then 10-2 as progress. Do you know what I mean? Because some people will.
We scored 2 goals, Alex.
Because some people will. And like here's the thing. Right now, if you are a Sharks fan, I'm not going to tell you how to live your life, but I am going to say this. You should be out of excuses.
Yeah.
You should. There isn't a good excuse anywhere for the Sharks not taking an action right now. There really isn't.
But Alex, don't you have to admit that it was awfully nice of the Sharks to celebrate Erik Karlsson's return by giving his team 2 goals? I thought that was quite a tribute.
I'm going to say something else about that actually, because speaking of being pissed off, not only am I pissed off at the organization, not only am I really annoyed with how mainstream media is just suddenly glommed onto it and piling on, as if this franchise didn't have a history of really being, a close to model franchise for a long time. But to the fan who brought the sign out, don't be like that. That is not how the business works. That's not how he's a human being, folks. He wasn't the one that gave himself that deal. He took it because, you kind of be dumb not to at that point in time.
It was dumb for us to sign it.
Don't be shitty fans. Don't walk right into the trap that everyone wants you to walk into, because what they're looking for right now, if you're frustrated with the media's current portrayal of the Sharks and fandom, you're walking right into it if that's how you're going to behave. That's ridiculous and a gross thing to do.
We deserve it. I know you're mad because you feel like the Sharks don't deserve this, but when you are the historically worst team ever through 11 games, you deserve the mainstream attention. And I'm sorry, you do.
No, yeah, I'm not saying you don't there at all. I'm more frustrated that they're like, well, the Sharks are why there should be relegation. And I'm like, yeah, okay. You weren't saying that any of the years that Buffalo sucked ass. You know what I mean?
No,
Oh
they
Now,
were.
yeah,
There were.
I mean,
There were
now,
people who said that then.
yeah,
There were. I promise you. I was one of them.
but yeah, it's not. But as a fan, like as a fan, I'm not saying as a fan you need to be happy right now. I'm not happy clearly, and I'm usually pretty happy-go-lucky. But I will say that to sit there, take the time to create a sign like that, 2 signs,
Yeah.
bring them down to the ice during warmups. That's a shitty thing to do, and you should feel bad because you're a bad person. I don't know you, but you're a bad person.
wasn't the person like under 20? Like, wasn't it a
I don't think
younger
so.
person?
I
Okay.
didn't see that well.
But like as a fan having watched this team through these games, like, and who wants this team to lose? Like, don't get me wrong, our record makes me really happy.
Yep.
The
Same.
nature, the road that has gotten us to the record makes me really shocked and horrified.
Yes, exactly.
I look forward and think, when will I get to have a glimmer of happiness? Because I was looking forward to what was it, like the Jets game? Yeah, the Predators game. The Predators game was the one that I thought, hey, Predators, they're a train wreck too. Here's our chance to get a point to, like, not be total garbage. And now I look forward and I'm like, all these teams are terrifying. Like,
Well, here's
any of these teams we beat, it'll be a meme.
But see,
it'll be an instant meme.
But see, here you touched on the discouraging thing, right? Which is, it's not that the Sharks are losing. We expected them to lose. It's how they're losing. And to me, even more than how they're losing, which I don't love, is the fact that the pieces that we need to see progressing, I'm getting concerned that they're not progressing at the rate they need to. And now Eklund, I think, is, fine. Again, I agree with you, Ben. I think, he can only do so much when you don't have him combined with the correct line mates. But like, watching Bordelot go down. Look at Bordelot NHL ready right now. Now, it's not on this team, especially not with the supporting cast he has here. But like, if I saw the NHL team losing, but I could really see a lot of progression with the youth at some of the levels. I know Gushin's doing really well right now in the AHL. Like that would sort of be one thing. My concern is I'm not seeing that at a rate that it needs to occur, because if you want the Sharks to get, first of all, this is not going to be a short walk. If anyone thought it was going to be a short walk to getting back to being a good team. But the thing is that, again, we've had this conversation about like draft picks and Celebrini and all that stuff. There is no guarantee. We've watched, again, to call up organizations like Arizona or Buffalo, who for decades could not put it together. Just because the Sharks are bad, and just because the Sharks may have good draft picks, they have to not only they have to put it together, it's got to be timed right. A lot of winning a Stanley Cup is timing, is having the right pieces peaking and playing well together at the right time. Right now, if you're a Sharks fan, your hopes are very much pinned on guys like, Will Smith when he's ready to come up. It's Eklund, likely Gushin, Thrun. I would put in that pile. McMadulan, I put in that pile. And it is critical that even as the Sharks are losing at the NHL level, that there's progress being made with those players. If they don't, all they're going to do is they're going to wind up with Will Smith and not enough of a supporting cast, or Celebrini and not enough of a supporting cast.
Or you're going to expect this kid to come in and set culture for an entire team, which is just insane. Yeah. And, the timing point, look at Edmonton. I mean,
well, the Oilers,
the best playoff pairs in history. And
yeah, right. The Oilers are a team, this year, and they were criticized for this in the offseason. And I was one of the many people who, I wasn't vocal about it because I don't really care. But I agreed, was they stood pat. They thought they were fine. They didn't think they needed other pieces. And now they've taken a big leap back compared to where they were before. I wasn't expecting quite that. But yeah, Oilers are a really good point. They had tons of first round draft picks, and it really wasn't until McDavid that they were able to put anything together. And even still now, look at where they are. They're barely above the Sharks.
But
and now they have more talent, much more talent than we do.
recognize that part of that is who they have had as their last 2 GMs as well. Like
Yes.
both of
I
those
mean,
GMs have absolutely fumbled building a supporting cast for McDavid.
And that's my concern right
and
now with the Sharks.
Yeah,
is,
for sure.
is we need to see that.
It's right. No. I look. Um, there is a lot that is going to happen before Will Smith gets up here, and there's a lot that's going to happen before we draft Celebrini, hopefully, right? There's a lot of time to see what adjustments get made from here. So
Right.
it starts with, can Greer identify a actual plus coach to bring in here who can sort of bring a fresh evaluation to the faces on the ice. But also, again, like the most important thing I think isn't even like what sort of strategy or tactics they're going to bring in. It's, can they get here and make these guys want to be here?
Right.
That's it, because they don't want to be here right now. None
you
of
know
them.
what? I don't care about them wanting to be here. I care about them just wanting to play, just wanting to play for a game. If we can get that,
But it's the same thing though, right? Like
it's the Shoresy quote. These kids, these kids don't want it. They don't shoot. They don't skate. They don't hit. They float. And like that's what the Sharks are doing.
This is a workplace, guys. I know that we like to think that somehow sports teams are different than your office or whatever, but what we are seeing here and have seen multiple times over the last couple of years is what happens when people don't want to come to work on a daily basis, because the ice is their workplace. And yeah, they're floating their way through life because they're just trying to get through the year unhurt, right? Like they're not bought in. There's nothing they're working towards, because how do you motivate guys to work towards, we're going to be in last place? That's really hard. So you have to, and I don't think Quinn has been doing this. You have to not just have good, structure on the ice and teaching moments. You have to, with each and every single one of these guys, have to be sitting down and giving them, this is your development plan for this year.
Yeah.
The team is not going anywhere. So here's what we're going to do. Here's what we need from you. Would you like to leave? Would you like to get off this team? Then you're going to have to do some of these things, right? So we can showcase you for a trade or whatever, right? Like, and you do that up and down. And with some of these guys, it is here's what we're going to do for you. You're not playing because you're bad, and you should feel bad.
I love Duclair's quote yesterday after the game, by the way, where he was asked like, if scoring felt good, and he's like, I don't really care. We gave up 20 goals in 2 games.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a quote as a hockey player you never think's going to come out of your mouth.
And
no,
there it is.
It's great.
So, yeah, and Ben, you always make me see the angles of doom I hadn't considered. It's always a little bit darker being a Sharks fan after we talk. Because you basically said that all these guys were brought in and none of them got any sort of discussion, and they're all on their last year contracts, and they're all just like, well, screw it. I guess I just need to show up and, not do too much bad hockey because I don't know what's happening tomorrow. And that's really terrible. That makes all of this so much worse, that all of these people are just sitting there going, I have no idea what's going on. Is this the last season of my career? What's up?
These guys need to be playing, typically when you see guys at the age that those guys are, the players you're talking about specifically, they recognize that they're playing for one last chance if they even get it.
Yeah.
Because, you got to remember that, these guys start playing when they're kids. This is all they know. There really isn't a backup for a lot of players. I'm not saying that they can't go to real estate or they invest their money well or whatever, maybe, but these guys don't want to stop playing. It's really all they know. And so, what you're hoping for with situations like, Duclair or Granlund, Hoffman, Ruda, are that they recognize that. And I'm sure they do. and that they are going to get you value for that year because they recognize this is the last shot. And that's why, like, I don't believe in players tanking. Again, having met and worked with a lot of pro athletes, one, these guys are bred to be competitive. They don't like to lose, period. But two, it doesn't benefit them. You know, Duclair won't be here for Celebrini. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but
I don't think all of them are. I don't think there's a template in the sense that every single one of these guys is the most competitive guy in the world, right?
No, but they're more competitive than you think they are because
maybe
they have
sure
to
don't
be
look.
every
They
day for their
sure
job.
don't fucking look like it right now. So,
well, yeah.
I mean, to that point, like again, sorry, Colin. I'll make a short point, and then I absolutely am going to throw to you. I think up to a point you're correct, right? Players don't tank, but they absolutely recognize a lost cause, right? And then all sorts of calculations kind of come to the surface as they are, you know, having to fucking drag their ass to another practice with a coach they don't believe in, with a plan that doesn't work. Like, you all have, look, I know you guys work for EA. I know you guys know what it's like to go to work for a company that you don't believe in the vision, and the managers suck, and it's shit getting out of bed every day, right? Like, you know, in some cases we've been lucky as to what part of EA we worked in and had great management in like a local area, though I'm sorry, Alex, I don't know that was true for you, but but you know, it sucks, right? And for them, like, this is just 1 year. Yes, some of them are at the end of their contract and they may just be, you know, collecting that money. But some of these guys have a future, and some of these guys have a future in coaching. And so there are ways to motivate, in theory, let's say 90% of the guys that we've got.
Yeah, well, hold on. Let me just let me put a stick in your stomach there, because the difference being in that comparison, and I'm not saying you're completely wrong, but the difference is we can, and hey, folks, did in most instances, I think, quit and find another job. Hell of a lot harder for a player to go, I'm gonna stop and just go play hockey over here now. They don't have that luxury.
True. No, but there are ways out, right? Like that's where, if that's what they want, if they want out, that's where you have to have a serious conversation with them about, you're not going to accomplish your goal the way you're playing right now. And but also part of it, the player can fire back at that point. Yeah, well, your fucking coach is garbage that you've given us. And of course we're not doing anything. I can't. Look, I've got Luke Cunnin on my wing. Are you fucking kidding me? How the fuck am I supposed to get points with that guy whiffing on everything that gets sent into the slot? I mean,
well,
like,
if you're Ferraro, according to his interview yesterday, your belief is that we're all trying to make a difference individually, and we're getting away from the game plan. I haven't seen anyone do that.
Wow,
I've seen that the last couple of years with
game
Sharks
plan?
teams. I've seen that we saw that in the Carlson, Burns, Jumbo era, where like occasionally, like they would be like, well, I guess I got to do it, and then they would split apart. I'm not seeing that with this team.
What's interesting is, if you want to talk about what players free agent the most, like, are not in position and go fucking do whatever the hell they want, Ferraro is public enemy number one.
Yep.
So that dipshit can go fuck himself. Anyway.
But here's the reason why it sounds so grim, Ben, is because I have been in that shitty employment situation. And that shitty employment situation means that nobody's talking to me. I have no idea what tomorrow will bring. I have no idea what like success for my day-to-day decision making can look like. And so, like, you look at these guys who are on their last year, and to think none of the people like Duclair, who, if he gets hot, he would be a prime target for us to just eat a little bit of that 3 mil, like, whatever a team needs us to. And he becomes the perfect plug-in for a bottom six on a cup contending team.
Bear in mind, we can only retain salary on one more deal, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And nobody sat down with any of these guys and been like, listen, Duclair, Hoffman, you guys are, the competition is whichever one of you is hotter, whichever one of you is more appealing as trade to a contending team, you get that retention slot.
Yeah. What's behind door number one? It's the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Can I ask you guys a question that has been in my mind lately?
Sure.
Because fans won't stop dragging it to the forefront. There are a lot of fans who are immediately pointing to DW. this is DW's fault. This is DW's fault. This is DW's fault. Now, DW hedged a lot of bets with some contracts that didn't pay off trying to get us over the hump. I'm not going to try to be a DW apologist here. I want to know your guys' honest take here. Do you think that if DW were still GM of the team, that the Sharks would be playing this poorly? Because the way that I see it is that DW's retool on the fly, whether or not it was effective, there are bits and pieces that you could kind of see going together. I look at this right now and I go, hey, is it true that, Greer was left with not a great roster situation? Yeah, absolutely. Yes. There's no denying that. Not great contracts. But I also want to point out that the current team is of Greer's making. Now, partly, sure, because you can point out, well, handcuffs here, some things there. Yeah, I get it. But when Greer has made a transaction, that transaction has ultimately, I think fans at some point need to stop blaming DW for the current state of the Sharks. He didn't leave the Sharks in a great spot, but I don't know. Do you guys think, sorry, hop back to my question. Do you guys think, and this is speculation, obviously, it's easy to say we don't know, but do you think that this would be the same situation if DW hadn't taken his leave and was still, jamming the team? Or do you think that this is Greer?
Oh, wait a second. Your question kind of shifted halfway through there, because at first it was, is this situation like DW's fault? Like,
no. My question never, my question never shifted. It's, do you think that this team would be this bad if DW were continuing to be GM? And the only reason I'm asking it is because there are a lot of fans who, well, that's immediately where they're putting all the blame, right? And so, and maybe you do. I'm interested to find out.
So he never got sick then is the series, is the idea here.
It's do you think that if Doug Wilson was still the managing, not Joe Will was the interim, he was the actual general manager, that the San Jose Sharks would be playing as poorly or in exactly the same situation?
Well, no. I think we'd still be trash. I don't know if we'd be this bad, but the problem is the pivot that Wilson seemed to be taking the Sharks in was towards sort of skill and speed, usually in smaller packages. And that completely changed when new management took over, and the interim period was just bad. So I don't know. Like,
Krona's a big guy, but I don't necessarily know that the Sharks have gotten that much bigger in size.
No, but
they have. If you look at their overall pool of players, including the prospect pool, most of the shorter dudes have been thrown to other teams or are just gone.
Yeah,
fair.
Yeah, like there was an initial purge of people under 6'1".
You're right. Yeah.
So like, I feel that, to me, LeBlanc, Vlasic, and Carlson, those are the dead bodies I leave at Wilson's door, just being like, these were terrible re-signings. But Wilson had his crazy and sometimes crazy like a fox streaks. So who knows what sort of crazy genius he'd pull.
Yeah,
I know that the team would have been younger, faster, and more fun to watch probably if Wilson was around.
I think so.
One thing to keep in mind too, and I'm not trying to be a DW apologist here, but the other thing that I do see stuff like the LeBlanc contract, and I agree through and through. That second, the last contract that he had, I would never have given him. Now that being said, context is a little bit important. Right, because that's been said about a couple of the Sharks contracts. And while none of us agree, I don't think, none of us agree with the idea that you should just make good contracts later. You should be basing the contract based off of anticipated, play and value to the team, not past. A lot of those did come from the fact that DW, because of the culture he created, was able to get players to take discounts they probably needn't have taken. I think LeBank's a good example of that too. Again, I would never have given him that would not have been a make good contract. I would have given him not at that level, But you got to remember, he took, what was it, like $1 million contract? The contract before.
He banked on it. Yeah, he banked on himself. Kind
Dang.
of lost. He didn't have this amazing, oh my god, best player every year.
But the Sharks looked at that, like, that's one of many examples of, if you look at Marlowe and Thornton, those two players did not maximize their earnings over their career. They didn't. They took discounts frequently in order to allow the team to continue to be competitive. That is one of the things that I think DW did well. Now, then where he put it afterwards with the make goods, don't love that response because it's so far on the opposite side. But there is some context as to like why some of that was handled the way it was handled, whether you agree with it or not.
So my let me just jump in and give you my thinking on what DW would have done. I don't have the first goddamn clue, because DW would have found himself in the same position that Greer was put in, which is that this is a team with too much money tied up in Couture, Burns, Carlson. Let's assume he also extends Hurdle. So it's a complete alternate universe, right?
Yes,
because I think that he would have continued to try to fill in around those guys. I think he probably would have bought out Vlasic of all of these guys. Personally,
Burns is a third line forward too.
Who knows what they do with Burns? I don't know what they do with Burns under a DW regime, but I think they would have tried to clear cap to keep Timo, and I think they would have filled in around with the guys that they had identified as being close to NHL ready or NHL ready among all of those young guys that have been over time, ejected by Greer.
Right.
And I don't know what that would have meant for their depth, and does he do a Burnsy trade? I have no idea. I agree with Colin, though, that I think that team would be more fun and faster and actually be scoring goals. I suspect they'd still be under a shitty coach.
Yeah.
Because, that was DW's blind spot was coaching.
Always, yeah.
And, I don't know that he hires Quinn. Maybe there's a chance that actually he grabs Cassidy, like we all thought should have been an attempt. But fuck, who knows? Like, I don't think we'd be in last place right now. I don't.
Yeah, that's why I was asking, because when I do see people point that out, I think there are a lot of easy scapegoats here.
Yeah.
So sometimes those scapegoats deserve some of that, scapegoating. That makes sense. I think right now, if you're clinging on to the DW thing, you got to let go of that at this point.
I guess what I would say to that is that, Greer did embark upon a teardown. And initially, he has emphasized a certain type of player that doesn't necessarily lead to, when you put them all together, doesn't lead to success. Like, he's made Grinder Nation here, and you can't win with 18 grinders. You can't.
Well, especially when they're not hitting.
Well, like, I mean, there's that too. Like, it's so bad that you're right. They're not even doing that. But my point is that, like, Greer fetishized in that first year the big guys for the most part, right? And he's moved away from that, right? That's not Will Smith at all. That's not Eklund at all. That's not Bordelot, who he retained among all of the DW junior draft picks. And it's not Thrun, and it's not Gawanke, it's not Emberson, it's none of those guys. So credit to him. I really do think he's made progress in terms of player choice. I think that, unfortunately, though, because of year one, we're stuck with some guys who just are garbage and will always be garbage. And unfortunately, those guys work really hard, and that's what impresses a terrible coach like David Quinn. So,
but here's the problem. The works really hard impresses a lot of people, and Kunin, I think you could flip him. Like, if you don't care what you get back, you just want to make the roster slot, you could get rid of him. So the fact that he's still around it's troubling, because
I mean, the thing is that you could flip a Kunin probably, but you still need a team to go like, we need a Kunin. We need a player right now. And I think we overthink how often teams are looking for players. Like Greer could be working the phones
this early, not really,
day in, day out to try to get rid of some of these guys, and nobody's taking that call right now.
The only team that would be probably taking calls like that right now,
Oilers.
Yeah, Oilers. Maybe maybe Penguins again. They haven't had the best start in the world, but I agree. Like this is really not unless you're in a panic. This is not. And to add to that, I don't necessarily think that GMs think that all the players we have are as bad or like, the worst things in the world. They definitely are smart enough, I would hope, to see that the combo is not correct there. But, you get Duclair in the right situation and he's not a bad pickup, right?
No,
so
agreed.
But yeah, you're absolutely right where you're going with this, which is right now, there's a reason you don't see a lot of trades at this point of the season. There's a reason you don't see a lot of trades really until the trade deadline.
Yeah.
Or right around the winter break at the earliest, usually.
I mean, the Sharks are not going to be shopping a guy right now that other teams go, oh shit, yeah, I'll move for that right now. Like, if you call about Cunnin, teams are like, I don't need a fourth liner. I could bring those up from my AHL team, right? If you call about Duclair, you might get some interest, but you don't want to do that yet because you're going to try to maximize his value as you approach the trade deadline, right?
Here's what happens there. You call up someone and say, I got Kunin. What can we do? And they go, great, package him with the first or Eklund. No, like that. No, like that's what they're gonna do. They're gonna come back and they'll go. They'll go. I'll consider that.
Or they'll be like, I'll pick them up on waivers. You want to?
How are you? No, they don't want to do that because they'll have to give up a pick. They'll literally look at it from the perspective of, yeah, sure. With what else?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's gonna be something you don't want to.
Jan Ruda, Matt Benning, and Luke Cunnin for a third.
And they'll be like, great. You're gonna throw in 3 firsts.
Yeah. The main thing is that. For this to be a successful year, what it's in a way that it has to be, which is this is a tank year and we're trying to get Celebrini. The change now needs to be to motivate these guys to maximize their value at the trade deadline, and they're not going to do that with Quinn.
Yep.
And the culture that he's created here, that's very clear, right? That's why he has to be fired. The reason he has to be fired is because he's jeopardizing the plan that Greer clearly had for this year, right? Greer brought in Granlund and Hoffman and even maybe Duclair to pump up their value to move for second or third round picks, whatever he can get for them. And right now he ain't getting that. And so this is the moment that you have to strike. I mean, how often do you as a GM have your team lose 10 to whatever 2 games in a row and give you a free pass to fucking fire your coach without anybody going, wow, that's so unfair?
I mean, hopefully never.
It never happens.
Yeah. Granted, we don't see a lot of double-digit in a row losses, but like I can't think of a situation. Even if you like the coach, I'd be like, sorry, bud, I like you too, but come on now.
Yeah,
let's be real. And that's exactly what you heard in the one-word answers. Between the lines in the one-word answers that Quinn was giving us, he knows that too.
Yep. Oh man, it's so rough. Like, I mean, I love Ben's plan. I want Ben's plan to happen. Fire Quinn, waive Ferraro and Ruda. If that happened, like Ben has the monkey's paw and is irresponsible with his use.
You got to remember I'm going to point a couple things out here that's not going to make any of you feel better. You ready for this?
Sure.
No.
Granlund's not a free agent next year.
Right.
Nor is Ruda. Right. Nor is Burrows. And and nor is Ferraro.
So I'm going to say something about Burrows here that you are not expecting.
You like Burrows?
I don't think he's great. Yeah, he is not the problem.
No, he's not the problem at
all. He's actually he's a high event hockey guy, unfortunately, which you really don't want to have as on your defense. Basically, but he actually is sort of balances that out because he's not. I don't know how he's doing it. I can't figure this out from watching him play, but he's more or less holding his own in terms of particularly expected goals. The expected goals for percentage. So yes, there are a lot of goals that happen when he's on the ice. He plays a lot of minutes, but also those goals occasionally, or expected goals, I should say, like we're not converting on them, right? But they are they could go in if we had better talent on the ice, shooting talent. He's okay. He's not the problem.
Right.
The problem is that we're not getting enough time of the guys who are in the long term going to be the solution, right? Emberson, Thrun, Gawanke, Makmadulin, whatever, right? Like particularly on the defensive side, this team needs to bring up the guys who can pass, because
it's not even finding the solution. It's proving to all of us as fans that they are not. Like we get these eye blink moments with these players, and it's like, wait a second, he has more points than players that you've kept up. What the hell's going on?
Well, I mean, the thing is that there's two real scapegoats on this team defensively, and it's Ferraro and Vlasic. And you can't do anything about Vlasic, and nobody was going to want. I'm sorry, Alex. I'll tell you what. If the Sharks were able to, and I don't think they want to, but if they were able to move Ferraro, if they do somehow magically move Ferraro for a pick over this season, I'll buy you any board game you want.
Well, the problem, obviously, with moving Ferraro,
is bad.
It's not it. I don't think the issue is whether or not a team would be dumb enough to take a pass on Ferraro. The problem with him is the contract, and the Sharks are not in the position to be eating more salary.
No,
and and I think that is more the blocking point than I think. I think there's, and you brought this up over the years, and I always agree with you. There are enough dumb GMs that see, an A, on that shirt occasionally, or in general. I think there are enough people, and he is young enough, even though he's kind of at that point now where he's not going to be developing further, likely, unless he's a freak path, which I don't see any evidence of. I think there are enough GMs that would, but I don't think the Sharks are in the position to eat the salary that would be required, because no one in their right mind would do it at 3.2.
You need Peter Chiarelli to be hired by a team.
I was just thinking, I was like, wait,
that's who they're
wait, did we get a second or a third for Murray? And wasn't that Chiarelli?
That wasn't Chiarelli. That was the Sabres, wasn't it?
He's going to end up here, Ben, and then he's going to be like, hey guys, good news. I got rid of Ferraro. We're going to be like, to where? And he's like, the Sharks. We're like, no, you're the Sharks now. Guys, 3. I know it's real hard this week.
No,
we need to do 3 stars.
No,
3 stars. They can be comedy stars. I don't give a shit. 3. They can be negative stars. 3 stars.
Did we even score 3 goals? Oh yeah,
yes. We scored 4 over the course of the week. And I'll tell you, actually, let me do that real quick. So the Sharks started our week. They lost 3-1 to the Capitals. Luke Kunin scored. So Ben, I think that's where you're looking right now.
So to that point, by the way, that goal he scored is exactly what Kunin is able to do, which is he cleans up messes, which is why he should be on the 4th line always. I don't hate Kunin as a player. I hate Kunin as the way the Sharks use him.
Using him. Yeah.
And also that, in a sense, he's just jamming up, a space where, I mean, wouldn't you rather have Gushin getting those opportunities than
Obviously.
Kunin?
Obviously.
Right? That's my problem. I think, and to your point earlier where you asked if we could move Kunin, Colin, absolutely. At the deadline, when someone's looking for that 4th line grinder cleanup guy, I think he's got a chance. But the Sharks use him poorly.
Yeah. Well, the Sharks would go on to obviously lose by a score of 10-1 against the Canucks. Now that was really bad. I mean, you knew it was over because the second that first penalty was taken, and they got 2 quick power play. I mean, look, overall, they got 4 goals in the first freaking period. Like that was ugly. Zetterlund scored in that one, if you want to give someone a high five. But hey, Kunin got a assist on that one. So there you go, Ben. I see where this is going for you. And of course, then they would play the Pittsburgh Penguins in Erik Karlsson's return, and Duclair would score, and so would McDonald. And that was all she wrote. Now, also in that game, keep in mind that we saw Kakinen in the Canucks game get injured, and then Blackwood in the Penguins game got pulled, and we saw the start of the Magnus Krona experience, I suppose.
That poor kid.
I know. So 3 stars. Who wants to go first? Who are you giving them to? How you dispersing these? The NHL's got a gun to the back of your head, Ben.
It's me? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Third star,
All
Magnus
right, all
Krona,
right, all
because I just feel bad for that poor kid. He got thrown into the worst possible situation. Second star, Luke Cunnin. Man, that guy is just the best shark. First star, Anthony Duclair, got your first goal as a shark. Good job, buddy.
Oh God! Oh my God! This is welcome to the Sharks Week for Duclair. That
Yeah.
hurts so bad.
That's why he made the comment he made when he was asked if how it felt, and he was like, "What do you mean how it felt?"
Honestly, first star to him for that fucking comment.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh,
how do you feel scoring your first goal? We got blown out 10-2. How do you think I feel?
Yeah.
Perfect. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but perfect answer.
I'm gonna let you. I want you to go last year, Colin. So I'm gonna give.
Oh God!
I'm gonna give my third star to Kern. I'm gonna my second star to Declare for pretty much the same reasons that you gave them stars, Ben. I'm gonna give my first star to Shang Pang, who had the balls immediately after last game to ask all the correct questions. Now I know Shang probably knew he wasn't going to get any answers, but the fact that he asked them, thumbs up, dude.
Yeah.
Those were the right. Those are all the correct questions.
Yep.
Oh God. Okay. My third star is going to the alternate timeline we discussed where Wilson didn't get sick and stayed in charge of the Sharks. My second star is going to the alternate timeline where Taylor Swift started dating a hockey player instead of a football player, so people actually gave a shit
Brent
about
Burns?
hockey. Oh, that would have that. Oh God. Okay, sure. And my first star can be shared between our goaltenders for just the abuse they're going through and Duclair. Welcome to the Sharks, Duclair.
And I mean, two things we didn't talk about at all this podcast, but to chew on. When does a shoe drop at all for Joe Will? Because Hasso, and then we bring up Hasso too. Hasso put those guys in charge of the GM search. He put those guys in interim positions, and I'm not going to heap all the blame on them. You know, at all. Joe was doing a lot of great stuff for the organization over time, but again, going back to my frustration in the beginning, this goes all the way up there, like all the way up there.
I mean, I think you fire Will for the Hurdle contract before you fire him for
I would agree.
The GM search, right?
100%.
I mean, I love Hurdle and I wanted him to be here, but if they were going to be moving away
him
from the Wilson sort of system, then you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't do that signing.
You shouldn't do that signing before you have your GM, period. And if that means risking losing the player, that's a risk that you take because you don't want to handcuff. Because what you have to remember, what was going on at that time. The handcuffs were already on. Handcuffs were already on contractually. Mm-hmm. So to add to the handcuffs before you have a GM made no sense.
Well, I mean, the other thing is it's very clear that Joe Will used that GM search to get rid of the person who was going to be his boss that he didn't want to be his boss, which was Junior. So that is what it is.
Yeah, like it was messed up and nasty, and it's why trying to say, oh, Greer has totally made his own bed versus he got handed a poison pill. It's tricky. It's weird. But this is his team, and it is the worst so far. I mean, the worst.
Look, if Greer got fired, I mean, I'm not going to be super sad about it because he's taking a while to get to kind of make the progress that there were better prepared candidates who wouldn't have stumbled through their first year the way he did, right? Like we wouldn't be in this position, but also we wouldn't have Will Smith probably. So, I don't think he should be fired yet. Personally,
agreed.
I think he should be allowed to continue to grow on the job because I think there have been things, again, we all agree are positives about the way he's changed. But this is the moment, right? If he doesn't fire Quinn and bring in somebody to change the culture, then all bets are off.
Agree. Yeah, totally agree with you. I'm not. I don't love what Quinn has, what Greer has created so far. But what I'm looking for from Greer and Hasso as well, honestly, as an owner, is to be engaged and to go, this isn't working. Here's how we're going to address it and see the plan sort of unfurl. That's all. That's one thing I want to point out when it comes to my coaches and my general manager in general. the biggest thing for me is understanding the plan, understanding the direction. That's what I'm looking for. Like, obviously I want them to be successful, but if you can sit here and explain to me what you're doing and why and where you think you're going and how you think you're going to do it, I'm a lot more lenient in terms of like, okay, you've got something mapped out. Let's see how this starts coming. There's obviously a timeline, right? You don't get like 8 years to do that, but that's what I'm looking for. If Greer doesn't do that here, then I don't have that faith at all.
Okay. Wait a second. I need to add something to Ben's plan that I still thoroughly support. All of the things Ben said, especially with the Ferraro waiver, and Greer starts fireside chats. Alex has made me determined. I need Greer fireside chats.
To be FDR. My God,
I would actually look. That stuff's obviously really risky for a GM, but I would love that. I would love a GM to sit down and do that. It would be phenomenal. I'm one of those people that likes to have that contact.
Mike Greer, come on our podcast, man. Come give us tell us what you're gonna do about Quinn. Let's go.
Or the team, but right. Yeah, no, I would rather see that transparency, and I think it's great because people start to understand the realities of the business and some of that stuff. Like, I would much rather have the Sharks come out to me and go, "Hey, man, like that was the one thing that always bothered me about the end of the Wilson era." And it's not that I don't believe he thought he could retool on the fly. I do think he believed he thought he could do that, and maybe he would have. Who knows at the end of the day, but. What drives me nuts is when they pretend like I'm like,
no,
we both understand what's going on here. It's okay to say it. I'd rather have you say it than
no. Here's what needs to happen, and this is where we can wrap it. That we can leave this mental image. Every home game features Greer taking one of those executive suites that they're not selling right now. And you do it up as one of those "this is fine," like dog at the table fire scenes, and then Greer just sits there and does the whole like Sharks fireside discussion.
Drinks his coffee.
You didn't hear the news, did you, Colin?
Oh no! What?
Last night was a sold out game. I'm not saying everyone was in the seats. That was a sold out game last night. They made a big deal. They made a big deal out of that one because they haven't been able to sell tickets.
Bought seats.
Well, there was a hell of a lot of Penguins fans there, I'll tell you that much.
Oh,
that's true.
Well, actually, everyone wanted to come see Carlson, the last glimmer of hope they had.
Yeah. Well,
see, you ruined it. It could have been that beautiful mental image of Greer in the "this is fine" burning executive suite.
It's a kind of different kind of fireside, Colin.
Yeah. You're thinking, I don't think you and I have the same definition of fireside at this point.
Listen,
if you want to learn more about Colin's warped definitions of firesides and other words, I think he moved to Sweden and now we're getting things lost in translation. You can subscribe to this podcast on the Apple Podcast app. Android people, I don't know. Spotify is probably the answer for you, or you can check us out on the web at circlingthecup.com. You can check us out on Facebook and write us. We haven't got anyone writing us in a while and over there at facebook.com/circlingthecup. There is Ben on Twitter. The X's doing whatever he's doing. Lord knows I can't check anymore, so that's not good for anyone. At Circling the Cup, and of course we have our Discord channel, which I think Ben just posted recently, and we do somehow still talk through a lot of the games. We do have 2 threads there. We have 3 threads there. We've been answering questions of the pod. We have a general, and then we do have a game day thread that we used to change the title of daily, and then we said, why are we doing that? This team doesn't warrant it. So now it's just a single long thread. But there are great conversations in there. We do appreciate everyone who participates in there. We do love hearing from you. And we're all in this together, folks, unless, of course, you take an invitation from Colin to go into his fireside chat, in which case, well, you're on your own.
Whoa.
I'm renaming the game day thread to fireside game chat. So
I like it. All right, guys. Well, that concludes probably one of the worst weeks in Sharks history.
Oof.
Say bye-bye.
So far.
So glad to be here.
So far.
Yes, so far. The Homer meme. Perfect.
Bye.
No, we're not going to let you out of this, Alex.
Bye-bye.
No. We're just going to keep talking.
Bad. They've gone plaid.
Just accept the bye-bye. All right, guys. Sharks suck.
Oh, God. Oh, God.
Oh, they're so amazingly bad.
Yeah.
They are